You can change your life in a moment when you have a disgust, right? A sense of enough is enough with this thing.
We're talking style. Bouncing with class.
I want to share with you what I do around this time to set goals. And I want to tell you a little bit about my thinking and my mentality and how I do it. What I'm going to share with you today is really a compilation of things that I've learned from other people. Things like Mark Ford, his pen name, Michael Masterson, worked with Agora, fantastic writer and speaker. Jim Rohn, of course, who's a legend. Things I've learned from him. And even more recently, Scott Adams, the Dilbert creator. He's written some really fantastic books that you should read. The book they wrote a few years ago is called How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big. And he talks about goal setting in that book. And he actually says goal setting is for losers. And which that's a little harsh maybe, but I get it. I get what he's saying. His idea is that, well, his quote, I wrote it down, is goal-oriented people exist in a state of continuous pre-success failure, because goal-oriented people are focused on this outcome that in many cases is a year away, or in the sense of long-term goals could be 3 or 5 years away. There's Bob hanging out to listen in on my goal setting. And so there's this constant sense of I haven't achieved my goal, and when you do, oftentimes it's anticlimactic. So instead, what he says is that systems people succeed every time they apply their system. So the thing that Scott Adams focuses on, and the thing that I've actually found great success for my life personally, is setting up systems in your life that move you toward the goals and the achievements that you want to add to your life. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about all of these things. And again, kind of my own personal thinking and what I do, which is a compilation of various things. So first and foremost, there's a couple of different types of goals, in one sense anyway. One is what I would call long range or life goals. And those are things that I'm going to call 3 to 5 years and even further out. Okay. Those could be goals that you have that have to do with maybe your retirement or a certain amount of income that you want to have at a certain time of your life way down the road, or maybe exiting a business, or who knows, something completely outside of what you're doing right now, or it could be within what you're doing right now. I'm not going to focus on those, though what I'm going to share with you today and what I do will apply, I think, really, really well to the long-term goals. The other type of goal I'll call the 1-year goal, or the resolution, right? As in famous New Year's resolution. Now, the stats on New Year's resolutions aren't very good. In fact, statistically, I think it's over 90% of people fail at and ultimately give up on their New Year's resolutions within the first couple of weeks of actually setting them. And I think that actually goes along with the thinking of Scott Adams, that really what you need to be thinking about doing, instead of just having, kind of a fantasy goal, is you need to have a system in place to feel good about the achievements that you're making on a regular basis, and ultimately to achieve what it is that you set out to do. So I want to give you kind of a multi-step process that I do, and I'm even going to I'll just show you my notebook, and I'm doing this over the next couple of days. If you haven't done this, it doesn't matter. You can do this today, this weekend, whenever you want. It's not like just because it's the first of the year tomorrow that you're already behind. That would be a foolish way to think about it. But here are the 3 steps that I take, and then I'm going to break down individually in these steps as well. Number 1 is to reflect on the past year. Remember, we're talking short-term goals, or we're talking 1-year goals and resolutions. Reflect on your achievements of the past year. And when I say your achievements, I'm going to add to that the things that you accomplished, that you set out to accomplish, maybe even some things you accomplished that you didn't set out to accomplish. And number 2, the things that you set out to accomplish that you did not accomplish. So I actually, I have my reflections thing, and I actually write down, and I'm going to be doing this over the next couple of days, and I'm going to reflect on everything that I accomplished in the year. And it was a great year for bestseller publishing. It was a great year personally for me. But there's also quite a few things that I did not accomplish that I set out to accomplish. And I am going to write all of those things down, the things that I did accomplish and the things that I didn't. And that's going to lead to step number 2. Step number 2 is to contemplate the present. Contemplate the present. In other words, ask yourself, how do you honestly feel about these successes and these failures? Okay. In some cases, and one of the challenges, even with kind of the short-term idea, the 1-year goal, is that you can take on too much. I mean, there are like Mark Ford, who I love his goal setting stuff, and I've learned a great deal from it. He actually talks about, multiple areas of goal setting, and then setting like 6 goals in each one of these areas. And so you have like this page of goals. And invariably, when you set a large number of goals, you're going to have some goals that are really important to you, and you're going to have other goals that, quite frankly, it would be nice if you achieved them, but it really isn't something that is like high on your list. And so I'm going to get, again, in the third step, I'm going to give you kind of how I do it. And of course, it's not like this is the right way. It's just how I do it. And you can do it any way you like. But I do think that there is a real importance for you to take stock of your past year, successes and failures, things that you accomplished and things that you wanted to accomplish and that you didn't. And then step 2, take time and really think about those successes and failures. Now, Jim Rohn has this kind of 4-step, change your life in a day. And I've taken that and adjusted it into 4 Ds because I like alliteration. And so my 4 Ds, when I consider the things that I did not accomplish. Now, let's say that, I have something on my list as, entering 2019. I did not accomplish that thing. And then I look at it and I say, it wasn't that big of a deal that I didn't accomplish it. But then there might be something on there that I didn't accomplish, and it was a big deal. Like I needed to accomplish that thing. It was important to accomplish that thing. Then if I have something like that, then I'm going to go through kind of these 4 steps. And again, I revised it a little bit. It's not exactly how Jim teaches it, but the 4 steps are: number 1, disgust. And I use 4 Ds because, again, I like alliteration. Disgust. So if this is an important goal to me, and I set out to achieve this goal in January 1st of 2019, and I didn't achieve it. And now I'm looking back at a year that has gone by, and I could have achieved it and I didn't. And this thing is still really important to me. Then you know what? I need to really take stock, and somewhere down the line, I need to be disgusted with it. There's power in saying, you know what? Enough is enough. There's power in having the anger and the just grit that says, you know what, I've been putting up with this crap for too long, and you know what, I'm not going to put up with it anymore. You can change your life in a moment when you have a disgust, right? A sense of enough is enough with this thing. Now, you're not going to feel that about everything, and that's totally fine. But the things that are really important to you, you need to have that. That's the first D. The second D is desire. And that is really crafting within you this desire that goes from the disgust that you didn't do it, right? And the anger, not that leads into this self-pity, right? Self-pity doesn't motivate you to do anything but feel sorry for yourself. No, it's a disgust that leads into this desire of, you know what? I am going to change this thing. I am going to set up a system around it. I'm going to get help and influence from other people. I'm going to do whatever it takes to change this thing. That then leads to decision. And then last but not least is the final D of determination, because you are going to have, peaks and valleys. You are going to have times that you're really successful in that thing and times that you're not, which is totally fine. But it needs to change if it is something that needs to change, right? If it's something that you're serious about. And so on my goal sheet, right, on my reflections, and I haven't done this year yet, I'm going to be doing that today all through the weekend. I'm going to find one or two things that I really needed to accomplish and I didn't accomplish. And you know what? I'm going to go through those 4Ds and I'm going to work up some disgust, right, and some anger about that thing. And I'm going to work up from there to the positive motivation of, you know what, this real desire to change this thing that leads to me making a decision to do whatever it takes and then be determined to actually accomplish that thing. So step number 2, contemplate the present, is a matter of reflecting on what you did achieve and celebrating it and feeling great about that, celebrating it with your loved ones and people that are important to you and your spouse or whoever else, your significant other, and then taking those things that are important goals, right, that you did not achieve and saying, you know what, this is still important to me and I am going to work up the 4Ds here and really make this thing turn around. That then leads to number 3, which is kind of where we get into motion on the new year, and that is setting goals or deciding for the future. Step 1, reflect. Step 2, contemplate. Step 3, decide for the future. Now, here's the way I decide goals right now, right? And this may change in the future, but here's how I do it right now. And some of this I've learned from various people. This is more a Mark Ford thing. I focus on 4 areas of my life for goals: my health, my wealth, my personal, and my social. Now, there are subcategories within that. So let me tell you what those 4 things mean to me. Health for me is personal health, right? Like my fitness, my weight, how I'm eating, my workouts. It's also my spiritual health. And for me, that's a matter of daily meditation, daily prayer, daily reading the scriptures for me and growing in my spiritual life. And it also means my intellectual health, right? What am I reading? How am I growing? What am I learning? Okay. So that's health for me. Wealth for me is business and finances. And finances are not just business finances, but is my net worth growing? Am I saving for the future? Because I have saving goals right now that I'm in my 50s. I didn't have as many saving goals in my 30s as I have in my 50s, probably like most people. And so I'm thinking about those things, even though I can't even personally imagine the idea of retirement. I love the stuff that I do, and I'm not looking to retire. But at some point along the line, right, I'm going to want to have my nest egg and all of that. So for me, wealth is about my business and about my finances. Personal goals for me are things that are of interest to me and to my family. And so for me, a personal goal I always have revolves around golf. I play golf every week. I play 50 to 60 rounds of golf a year. I take 2 big golf trips with my friends. So I want to maintain a certain handicap. I want to grow in my golf game. There's also things that I want to do from a personal and intellectual and spiritual, trips that I want to take, or, books that I want to write that aren't directly related to my business. And then last but not least is social. And for me, social is about family and friendships. I have an inner circle of incredible friends that I would take a bullet for, and that would take a bullet for me, that I have known and that I've had deep friendship with for going on 25 years. These are guys that I play golf with every single week, that I go on trips with, our wives, our good friends, people that I go out with every single week. Of course, there's my wife. I've been married 30 years. It's obviously very, very important for me to grow our relationship, to be close, to have dates every single week, to be a better husband. And I can still be a poor husband. And so I want to do better. And I want to grow in that area. So for me, social is about family and friendships. What I do is I don't want to be overwhelmed with a whole sheet of goals personally, because I'm a little bit obsessive compulsive, honestly, and also ADD. So I focus on something and then I got 100 squirrels running around that take my attention. So what I try to do is about 2 goals per area. Now, sometimes I squeeze in another goal or even 4 goals, right? If I have a specific area, maybe like health, for example. but typically 2 goals per area, because this is something that I really want to focus on. I really want to build a system around, right? And I really want to grow in. So I'm taking time and I'm setting these goals. And here's how I am personally setting goals in each of these 4 areas. So we start with the 4 areas, 2 or so goals per area. And then here's what I'm doing. Number 1, I want to pick what the goal is, and I want to think about why that is important to me. So for a long time, as an example, for a long time in the health area, I've worked out, I've lifted weights. I love lifting weights. I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but I just love the feeling of growing in that area. And obviously, as you get older, it's important to maintain muscle mass because you lose testosterone, you lose muscle naturally. I've been working out since I'm a kid, since I'm, 11 or 12 years old and banging iron. So for me, I wanted to build a system. I had a personal trainer. Some of you have met my personal trainer, Ron, because he became a client of mine and I helped him to really grow his business. So much so that his schedule became really busy and he only wanted to work out with me in the afternoon. And that just didn't work for me. And so we would work out 3 times a week, but sometimes I'd skip 1 or 2 of those. And it was like, this just doesn't work. So I needed to build a system around consistently working out and doing it here at home. So I built a system around this important goal that I've had with working out. So for the last 2 years, I work out 5 to 6 times every single week. Even when I travel, I work out in the hotel or I do push-ups and sit-ups or whatever if they don't have a gym, which is almost never. But I don't miss. You can ask my wife about that, my friends. I don't miss. I love it. However, I have had a goal for years to get back into the 160s because, I'm not a tall guy. I'm 5'8". My frame isn't super huge. And it's not like I was super overweight, but, carrying an extra 15 pounds or so, it was significant. But you know what? I love to eat. And I love to go out with my wife, and I love to go out with my friends, and I love to have an old fashioned and all those things. What I needed to do was, so I've written down, get to 169 in my goal book for every year for the last decade, and I never did it. I haven't been in the 160s in, going on probably 17, 18 years. Well, this year was the first time, and I think I talked about it on a VSPU call, it was the first time in 16, 17 years that I got back into the 160s. And I did it because, number 1, the goal continued to be important to me, but I used those 4 Ds. And I also had to add a couple of other elements in it. So if you have, my point in sharing all of this is if you have something that you've been trying to achieve for a long time and haven't been able to achieve, then you might have to add some extra reserve power to actually achieve that goal. So what was the reserve power for me? Well, number 1, it was educating myself on the kind of diet that I needed to maintain that would work for me and my body and my lifestyle to actually get down into the 160s. So I dove into YouTube. I dove into HIIT training, right? High intensity interval training. I dove into learning intermittent fasting, right? These are things that I knew nothing about a year ago, nothing at all. But I dove into that stuff because I really wanted to learn it. I really wanted to find a system that would work for me to finally get this weight off and to feel really, really great, especially as I age. The second thing that I had to do, but besides educate myself, is I needed to pull in other people. And one of the big changes that we made is my wife and I decided to do some stuff together, right? And have that power of unity. But also there was another couple that really good friends of ours, and he's actually a client of BSP as well. And they agreed to do keto and do some intermittent fasting with us. And I tell you what, that was a real game changer because now I had somebody that was important to me that I was accountable to. And everything from the competitive juices to just the sense of not wanting to let someone down really motivated me to go after it for the first time, and be educated with the information that I needed. So for the first time, in more than a decade of writing down every year that I want to get in the 160s, I can write down that I achieved that because I needed some extra power to actually overcome the challenges that I had. So you're going to pick a goal. You're going to decide if that goal is important to you. And if it's something that you haven't achieved and been wanting to for a long time, you're going to find ways to educate yourself, to pull in other people to really help you. And then you're going to pick a date in the future that you're going to achieve that goal. Now, the date might be, for me, the date was by my birthday, December 16th. And I know I gave myself the whole year to do it, but I had failed so many times, right? I was like, I need some extra time. And literally on my birthday, even after like all the stuff that I did, I had 2 weeks of travel before that. Was in Hawaii, was in Mexico, and I achieved it. So you need to pick a date. And you need to work backwards. Now, I didn't do a great job with working backwards, but I did do a good enough job in the other areas of educating myself and pulling people in. But you need to, if it's something that is only going to be achieved because of incremental steps that you take, like the writing of a book, right, or launching of a funnel, or growing your business in some way, then you have to work yourself backwards from the date of the achievement of that goal. And you have to really determine monthly, weekly, and then even daily tasks that you're going to do to achieve it, right? So for me, again, with the weight loss thing, it was more about the daily task of removing from my diet certain foods. And yet, at times, I wanted those foods. So I had times where I binged on pizza, or I had times where I went out with my friends and I had old fashions and I enjoyed all that stuff. But then what I did is I added intermittent fasting the next day. In other words, I would fast for a full 24-hour period. So like tonight, we're going out, we're gonna eat, we're gonna enjoy, we're gonna have drinks, we're gonna do all of that stuff. But I will skip breakfast. I don't ever eat breakfast anyway. I just do bulletproof coffee. But I'll skip lunch as well tomorrow, and I won't eat again until dinner. And that works really well for me because I keep myself busy and I don't even get hungry. I'll have a cup of coffee or something like that during the day. So I had to figure out what I was going to do on a daily basis to get down to the weight that I wanted, and then to maintain and even further my goal there, you're going to have to do the exact same thing as well. So again, the 3 key steps are: reflect on the past year, what you accomplished, what you didn't. Number 2, contemplate the present, meaning, celebrate the things you accomplished, but also, decide, I didn't accomplish this thing. Is this thing important to me or not? If it's important to you, then go to those 4 Ds, right? Discuss, desire, decision, and determination, and really get on it, right? Then decide your goals. I do it in 4 areas: health, wealth, personal, and social. Pick a goal, pick a date, get extra power if you need it. In other words, educate yourself, pull in other people, whatever it takes to achieve that. And then you'll look back at the end of the year and even before the end of the year, and you'll feel an incredible sense of satisfaction and success. Now, one last thing I'll share, and then I'll open it up to any questions that you guys have. One last thing that I'll share, going back to the way I started and talking about Scott Adams of Dilbert, is the key, and the thing that I really enjoy personally is, I like discipline, and I like having a life that is ordered. This is me. Now, not everybody is like that, but to achieve the goals that you want to achieve, and you're not a done-for-you client unless you're already successful in many, many areas in your life. But that doesn't mean that you're where you want to be, right? None of us are. And so to achieve the goals that you want to achieve, you're going to have some kind of system in place to do that, right? You're not going to achieve it just by, writing down a few goals and, putting a piece of paper in your wallet and then hoping that it's going to happen. No, it works better, in my opinion, to adhere to some of the things that Scott Adams teaches about it, which is really, instead of thinking about the goal itself, think about the system that you have to have in place to accomplish that goal. For me, whether it's fitness or whether it's writing my next book or whatever, for me, it's a matter of having a real, systemic process where every single day, this is what I do. And it doesn't need to take a lot of time, but if I have my thing, then I feel a sense of satisfaction and success, even though I haven't reached that goal, because I adhered to the system today. And I got one step closer to achieving that thing because I did what I said I would do. It also really builds like your character muscles. You know what I mean? Your discipline and your character muscles. So anything is achievable when you have the discipline and the character and the system to go along with it. Anyway, that's all I have to share with you. Actually, it was kind of longish. I didn't mean for it to be this long. I hope this is helpful for you. This is stuff, this is my, I like mark these, and this is the stuff that I write down. And, this is like, here's my list for last year. And there was stuff that I crossed out because I made this long list. And then this is too generic. And then, it's like, none of this is about perfection. It's about taking action, moving in a direction, and feeling satisfied with the kind of person you're becoming because of the achievement of your goals. So I hope this is helpful for you. Again, thank you for your trust in me and in Bestseller Publishing. And it's an honor to work with you and to see your books done and to see you on TV and radio and media and becoming bestsellers and then using your books to accomplish amazing things.